And good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Darren Smith, along with the host of the W, Mr. Steve Walls, and we bring you the pregame cheat sheet. I'm still back in Kansas City, but Steve Walls is live on location down in Arlington, Texas, at AT&T Stadium. Steve, to you and your family, happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving to you too, man. Happy Thanksgiving to everyone out there too.
Yeah. Let me give a shout out to my mom. She already said good afternoon to us. So if we don't speak, she gets upset.
Happy
So
Thanksgiving.
she yeah, she cooked a nice meal. So we got to get through with the show so I can go eat before the game. But look, the Kansas City Chiefs are taking on the Dallas Cowboys in the mid-afternoon game at 3:25. Of course, you can watch the game on CBS. Steve, your initial thoughts on this matchup? Both teams coming off of come from behind wins on Sunday afternoon against opponents that they needed to beat. Quick question for you: your initial thoughts on this game, and what's the crowd atmosphere like down there?
I'll start with the crowd atmosphere first. It's a lot of red I see. Of course, this is one of those traditions, that's in Dallas on Thanksgiving Day. Period. Like people watch it on TV and to like actually, be here for game is actually pretty cool. But I see a lot of red. I don't know if that's just because Chiefs fans didn't have anything to do beforehand or what. But yeah, right now it's just a lot of Chiefs fans here standing room only. It's gonna be I would say probably a sold out game. And if I'm looking at the games as a whole, I expect it to be one of those high scoring games.
Yeah, no, we talked about that on the Red Hour this week. But looking at this game, the Dallas leads the all-time series against Kansas City 7 games to 5. Of course, the last 72 team played was at Arrowhead, where the Chiefs won 19-9. Of course, I believe I can't remember if Dak played in that game. I think Dak played. Okay, I'm thinking about the Green Bay game. But yeah, Dak played in that game, and it was a low scoring affair, 19-9. But this is a game, Steve, where when the schedule came out, you and I both figured that this game would be on Thanksgiving. The NFL placed this game here on CBS to try to break the all-time viewership record in the regular season. Of course, that was held by the Cowboys and the Giants. I think about 3 years ago, they had about 42 million people. They're expecting upwards to about 50 million people watching this game today. Now, I was going to post on X earlier today that people are not tuning in to these games today to be watching the 3-0 type of score that we saw in the first quarter of the Green Bay and Detroit game. They want to see some high scoring. But when you look at this matchup, Steve, what most concerns you about Kansas City going up against the Cowboys today?
I mean, right now, I just say defensively. I mean, we saw how Dak was able to fling the ball last week in his comeback win against the Eagles. And I would just say right now, I think it's defensively and it's getting after the quarterback. I feel like that would be my top thing that would most concern. And then after that, I would say, if it's a 1A, 1B, I would say the play of Patrick Holmes. I feel like he, hasn't hit his targets that he should have hit. Has overthrows, has some, interceptions start last week's game. So I would say there's 1A, 1B, it'd be the defense, getting out the quarterback, and then Patrick Holmes.
When I look at this matchup, I think the thing that's most concerning is a lot of people gave the Cowboys a lot of grief about their defense after trading for after trading Michael Parsons, and a lot of it was well deserved. But we saw in last week's game again, they were down 21-0, Steve, and that defense got them back to where they ended up winning 27-21. I'm wondering if whether or not that will carry over from just 4 days ago into this game, because we know that the Chiefs on average don't give up more than like 16, 17 points a game. The loss that the Colts suffered last week, they scored 20 points. But this is an offense that will challenge the Chiefs defense no matter what. Like every single drive, I expect Dak Prescott to try to push the ball down the field. I know Brian Schottenheimer in his press conference after the game, and I think on Monday talked about how they expect to give CeeDee Lamb a lot more touches in the game this week. Even with the drops that he's had over the last two games.
Yeah, I agree. I think today is the day where you can't afford to be kind of lackluster or don't have energy. I mean, it's a holiday. It's Thanksgiving. You have you said upwards of 50 million people watching this game. You're the only thing in town on TV across America. When people are actually sitting down having dinner, they're going to have this on at least in the background. I feel like people, these players have to understand that, especially guys like Chris Jones, right? I feel like you can't take any plays off. And you talked about Dak Prescott. He has to be able to make his presence felt. And I don't think we've seen that from Chris Jones. I mean, we've seen it in spurts, but we haven't seen a whole game where Chris Jones has been like a game record. Like last week we saw it in spurts, but I don't think we've seen a whole game put together a whole game yet.
See, man, I know we do our own respective shows outside of what we do in covering the Chiefs. So I was doing a Locked On podcast this week, and over the last couple of weeks, and people have gotten on my case because I've been getting on Chris Jones for missing in action. And like you said, he showed up in spurts, but what people seem to misunderstand is that they're paying the man $30+ million, and so for $30+ million, he needs to be wreaking havoc. I mean, look, Myles Garrett signed, redid his contract, signed a contract extension. It's getting paid $40 million, and he's playing like it because he has 18 sacks and is going to be on the verge of winning his second defensive player of the year award. So, it cannot be for me as a reporter, someone coming to the team, too much to ask for Chris Jones to kind of replicate what Myles Garrett is doing. Like, we need to bring, because if you look at last week's game, yeah, the defense helped the offense come back from behind, but it was basically on pressure because they had no turnovers, no fumbles, no forced fumbles, no interceptions, and Daniel Jones was not touched at all in the backfield. So, while it was a good defensive effort to where they helped Kansas City get back, with stops and stuff like that, again, to your point, I'm just not seeing the type of turnovers and sacks that the team did, I think, a couple years ago when they played the Eagles in the Super Bowl the first time around. Those were the top two teams in sacks. I mean, I think the Eagles had maybe like 62 or 72, and the Chiefs had like 58. And we're not seeing that type of pressure being displayed anymore.
No, we're not, and it's crazy how you see other teams just use four down linemen and they'll drop the rest, right, and play this Chiefs team in coverage, and they're still able to get after the quarterback, or at least make Patrick Mahomes be flushed out of the pocket. And so I want to say it's I can't say that it's fast. It's just Chris Jones, man. He has to get after the quarterback. He's supposed to be the leader of this defense. I mean, George is doing what George can do, but as Chris Jones is the leader, he has to be able to do it as well.
Darren Smith and Steve Walls bringing the pregame cheat sheet live today. Wishing everyone a happy Thanksgiving. I hope you and your family are enjoying the holidays today. Steve, looking at this matchup, Andy Reid is 19-13 against the Dallas Cowboys. Of course, most of those come from his time when he was the Philadelphia Eagles head coach. Brian Schottenheimer is, of course, the son of former Chiefs head coach Marty Schottenheimer. What are you looking at this matchup when you see, Big Red versus young Schottenheimer?
I mean, Andy's the guru. Andy's had so many quote unquote head coaches, in this league that have been under this Andy Reid tree. So they all pretty much learn from Andy. There's only so many things that you can do offensively, and you're not going to see them do too much different. Like Andy, sometimes if there's a box, Andy sometimes straddles one foot on the outside of that box and one foot on the inside of the box. And that being said, I don't think that Brian has been that type of coordinator to me. I could be wrong, but I just don't see him as being that.
All right, the Chiefs will be without Chris Roland Rallis, Trey Smith, and Noah Gray all out for today's game. Of course, when you look at this matchup, again, Dallas, their defense has improved since acquiring Quentin Williams over the last few weeks. But when you look at what they bring, how is the fact that you're going to be without Trey Smith? will that affect the Chiefs offensively? And to that point, the Chiefs of course signed Damian Pierce, who won't be playing in today's game, but they do bring back Isaiah Pacheco. Now I don't know if he's going to be starting, but we do expect him to get some touches in today's game. Steve, what are your expectations of what Pacheco can do, but what with the offensive line and offense is going to be able to do against Dallas's defense?
Yeah, just watching what Mike Caliendo did last week. I mean, he stepped in and filled a role. Now, of course, you're not going to be able to see what he's not going to be Trey Smith, right? Like he stepped in, did a job. But sometimes I think when you looked at last week's game, Patrick Mahomes had a lot of time. Like we saw a few series where he had 7, 8, 9, 10 seconds where he was able to, people talked about, oh, he's going through his progressions too quickly. I don't feel like he did that. I think he went through his progressions. People were covered, and he had to figure out the rest. Um, so Trey Smith, will he be missed? I feel like he will. But I think you have some other guys that can step in, whether it be Mike Caliendo or Jalen Moore.
Today's game, of course, is going to be shown on CBS. The Chiefs are 6-5. Dallas Cowboys are 5-5. Steve, this is another. Well, basically, the rest of the season are must-win games for both the Cowboys and the Chiefs if they are to make it to the playoffs. I think the
Yeah.
Cowboys can afford to lose this game or maybe this game and still win out and make it to the playoffs, depending looking at the records on the NFC side. But the Chiefs, they really don't have any more leeway. I think they could technically lose today and have a 6% chance of making the playoffs. But you don't really want to mess with the math like that. So
No,
your
no, because
thoughts?
at that
Yeah.
point you're just depending on another team. Like you're depending on the Jags and you're depending on
Facts.
the Chargers, and you don't want to be looking at week 15, 16, and 17 and like, man, we hope these guys lose, right?
Yeah.
So you just gotta do whatever it is that you can do, and that way you've done everything that you can do, right? If the Jags continue to win out, and the Broncos continue to play well, you still have the Houston Texans that you got to worry about. I mean, you play them at Arrowhead, and so I think those are the teams that you got to get wins when it makes sense when you're playing those guys.
And look, and the Chiefs put themselves in this predicament, obviously, with the loss early on. Like they started the week out 5-5, and depending on how this game ends tonight, they could essentially win two games in this week and still not make an improvement in their playoff picture, even with
Yeah.
losses to with these other teams that play, over the next few hours and days or whatever. So, the
Let me ask
Chiefs
you: Do you
again.
feel like do you feel like
Yeah.
do you feel like Jacksonville is going to just win out?
I mean, Jacksonville, they're winning games that you would kind of expect them to lose, or for Jacksonville to to just do Jacksonville things. I mean, they played the Arizona Cardinals, and that game went down to the wire. I think it was like 28-24 or something like that. So it it
Jacksonville
does
still has.
kind of
They have the Titans, they have the Colts at home, they have the Jets, the Broncos again, the Colts again, and then the Titans again.
see, but see, the thing is like because they did not win the division last year, they're playing like a third place schedule, and their division is not really all that strong as it is. And so when I look at that, and when I look at these other teams, their schedule is not as tight as the Kansas City. I mean, that's if you think about it, Buffalo, Baltimore, along with the Chiefs, they're all playing first place schedules. And I mean, and so granted, the Chiefs probably won't win the AFC West, so their schedule next year will actually be a lot quote unquote easier than what Denver or even the Chargers will be, depending on how things shake out. But if you're asking me, I guess when it comes to Jacksonville, yeah, I would say, you know, yeah, I mean, because if you play Tennessee twice, I mean, those are two wins that you get. I mean, I think honestly, I think Kansas City just needs to worry about trying to win their division and hope that the Los Angeles Chargers can lose two of those, lose another game in the division. So,
Houston as well. Houston is
well,
in.
Kansas City plays Houston. So, what Kansas City has to do, they have to beat Houston next Sunday night at Arrowhead because every other team in the conference that they've played outside of Baltimore, they have a tiebreaker ahead of them. So at least if Kansas City can beat can beat them, they'll at least have a leg up. And the only way that'll happen is for them is that they beat Houston, and Houston goes on to somehow win the division. I don't think they will, but that's an outside shot for them.
Yeah, 'cause, I mean, the Colts game was huge. If you can get this game, I mean, you still have the Chargers again, you still have Denver again, and then you have Houston coming in, and then you go to the Raiders last game of the season. You also have Tennessee, but you're going down to Tennessee to play them, and then you got the Raiders last game of the season. So, I mean, you got some very winnable games. The opponents that you're playing, there's nobody that like stands out. Like if you had, let's just say,
The only one that
Baltimore.
stands out is Denver. I mean, and look, I can't take nothing away because Denver has played Kansas City tough, especially at home. And
I agree.
Kansas City, of course, gave that game away in Denver a couple weeks ago.
I'm just talking about like schedule wise. So like
Oh yeah.
say you had Buffalo and Baltimore still on your schedule, then you kind of be like but I mean you've got teams that are that you're supposed to be at least
All
on
right.
paper.
So yeah, no doubt, no doubt. Now, Steve, Patrick Mahomes at his presser earlier this week talked about playing, back at this stadium for the first time since his high school, well, since college. I know he was on the team that played in 2017, when Alex Smith was here. But how does what do you expect from his performance today, especially when, he talked about having about 50 family members and friends coming in to watch him play?
Yeah. I saw his dad walking in a little earlier. They seem happy to be back here and playing and close to home. You also not only Patrick Mahomes, you got Rasheed Rice playing here
You're
too.
right. Yep.
Uh,
Yep.
Yeah, so I mean, home games for a few of these guys on this team. But I think Patrick's gonna come out and show folks why he's arguably still one of the best quarterbacks in the league. Yeah, I mean, it's going to come down to being Patrick and first down at the end of the day. And so Patrick being at home, he's definitely going to show why he's one of the top quarterbacks in the league.
As I mentioned earlier, Isaiah Pacheco returns to the active roster today. Last week, Kareem Hunt had over 100 yards from scrimmage. Was for the first time in such a long time. I think he had over 100 yards rushing as well for the first time since he's returned to Kansas City. What are you expecting from Pacheco in today's game, and how much do you think we'll see of him?
That's interesting because we've seen him come back last year, um, and I don't know when to say it was premature. After he had the fracture, what was it, fibula, um, and I don't want to say it was premature, but you could just tell he didn't have the bounce in his step that he had, the Pacheco bounce that we've come to see over these last few years. So I'm wanting to see how his first run is, if he's going to be kind of the cutbacks and things because the MCL.
Ginger.
Yeah, sometimes I think when guys have those kind of injuries, it's more of trusting it more than anything, more of trusting that
Well,
it's strong and that it's healed.
let me ask you this. I'm just playing devil's advocate. Do you think the signing of Damian Pierce kind of bumped up his, kind of made him come back a little bit sooner?
No, I think Andy can because Andy he was asked about him during a press conference last week ahead of the game against the Colts, and he said he was going to be out. We talked about him practicing and said that he felt good last week. So if I think he could have probably come back last week because he's been out 5 weeks now if you consider just last.
Hmm.
Um, so I think he probably could have played last week, but then they just kind of just held him out and was like, all right, we're just gonna roll with what we have.
No, I get it. I mean, Kareem, and we've talked about it. Kareem has told us he's healthy. I mean, this is the healthiest he's been in some time. He had all off season to actually get training camp and get all the reps and get in shape. I know he talked about it on Shannon Sharp show this week. So yeah, so I mean, and he's and he feels like he could take he could take a big load again today if that's what happens. So I'm curious, Steve, before your X factor for the team offensively today. Who's your X factor on offense?
Man, I'm going to say similar to last week, man. I'm gonna say Mahomes again, and the reason I say that is because this team goes as he goes.
Mm.
Because you got to remember, last week the the Colts got the ball first, right? The Chiefs, they went 3-and-out, um, punted the ball, and then Patrick threw an interception, right? So the defense did their job, right? The defense did their job. They got the ball back without a score, and he threw an interception in a crucial spot. So it put the Colts up 7-0, and then you're automatically playing from behind. So I feel like if the defense is doing their job and they're getting you the ball back, you've got to score every time you get the ball. You got to put points on the board every time you get the ball. So that's if I'm, we're just talking mainly about the offense. I would say my X factor for them would be Patrick Mahomes.
So you did it again, huh? So you decided to use it, just pull the same thing out last week. Okay, I'm gonna make sure I go first next week, so you can't use them again. Um, but you know what? Okay, but you know what? I'll put one of your numbers, Steve. I'll go with Andy Reid, and the reason why I'll go with Andy Reid is because again, we talk about his coaching style seems to differ from game to game, matchup to matchup. Again, he plays the Detroit Lions, he plays the Baltimore Ravens, he plays the Denver Broncos. He's a little bit more aggressive because you know that team is going to be more aggressive. Well, I would say that's kind of going to be the case with with the Cowboys today. Now, conversely, saying my X factor on defense is going to be Spag, so I'm going to just do that now because Brian Schottenheimer has already said that he expects, that they're going to, they're going to go after the quarterbacks because they're going to get CeeDee Lamb touches. They're going to get George Pickens. I mean, that's their offense. Now, granted, they do have a great, a great running game as well, but essentially it's Dak Prescott, throwing to those receivers and Jake Ferguson at the tight end. So, so my question is just how aggressive is Andy Reid going to be in today's game to make sure that, if they win the coin toss, we know they're going to defer. Will the defense be able to hold up that first stand? Or, if Dallas comes down and score first, how aggressive is Andy going to be in return? You know what I'm saying? I mean, because this is a game, and to be honest, I mean, you know, I I know we got the Texans coming in next week, and that could be more a defensive thing. But I'm thinking, to be honest, man, from here on out, you can't afford to be kicking too many field goals in these games. You can't have a 5 field goal game like you did last week and a touchdown. To win. I mean, this is gonna be a game that's gonna put a lot of stress on both the offense and the defense, and they have to come ready and prepared for it.
Yeah, and I don't want to hear, oh well, they came off of a short week. I mean, both
Both
teams.
teams, yep.
Yeah, both teams came off a short week. It's like one team had a bye and the other team was playing off a short week. No, they both played last Sunday. So that can't be an excuse at all. And if I'm gonna go right into my X factor for defense, I'm gonna say again, Chris Jones. He's got to lead these boys and getting off the field on third down. That's just what it is. And I mean they did that pretty well last week. But you had a team that wasn't going to go for it on fourth down, right? Like we saw them kind of take delay game penalties a few times on 4th and 1, which I didn't
Yeah, the
like.
Cowboys, they're gonna go for it.
Yeah, I didn't understand because you got arguably the best running back in the league, Jonathan Taylor. So you got to get out the field on third, and Chris Jones has to lead the charge.
Is there a particular matchup that you're looking forward to today?
As far as for
I'm
me,
not just matchup. That doesn't matter. It's like for me, it's going to be Dallas's wide receivers Pickens and CeeDee Lamb against Watson and McDuffie. I mean, I'm going to be looking at that matchup closely.
yeah, if I'm taking away the deep threat, I'm going to bracket CD Lamb um, with Watson and kind of hedge over Brian Cook. And then if I'm putting Trent straight head up with George Pickens. I mean, or vice versa. I mean, however you want to look at it. I mean, because you gotta remember, um, CD Lamb isn't uh, Tyreek Hill, right? Like,
Hmm.
I don't know if you remember back a couple years ago when the Chiefs played the Dolphins in Germany. And the big thing was like, oh, well, Tyreek Hill is playing against the Chiefs, and everybody was mad because he wasn't coming back to Arrowhead Stadium, right? They moved again to Germany. And
Yeah.
what did Trent do? He was very physical. Now granted, you had some other guys. You had Justin Reed on the back end as well. But Trent played very physical on Tyreek Hill, and so I think you have to pretty much do the same exact thing. I think you've got to be physical with Pickens and be physical with CeeDee Lamb as well.
All right, Steve. Before we get out of here, what's your score prediction for the game?
I'm giving you a score prediction. I've got the Chiefs 30,
I know it's hard for you to remember what you said Monday.
30 31, 31 27, 31 27 Chiefs.
Yeah, I've got a little bit higher. I think we're going. I think it's going to be a barn burn. I've got 38-31 Kansas City. I mean, look, I just feel like this is a game that with Patrick playing at home for the first time in ages. All the people he's got there. I just got a feeling that they'll try to run the football, but as soon as they can get away from it, they're gonna get away from it. Patrick's gonna start airing the ball out. Hopefully, he can connect on some of those long passes to Rice and Worthy, and of course, hopefully a big game from Kelsey in today's game. But I like the Chiefs in a barn morning because again the NFL is really Roger Goodell and the owners are really putting a lot of people are watching this game. Say
Yeah,
because
of course.
they can go back and get some more money from these networks.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I mean, it's Thanksgiving, right? So it's a three o'clock game, Central, 4 o'clock Eastern, and then what is it, 2 o'clock on the 1 o'clock on the West Coast. So yeah, everybody's going to be sitting down having Thanksgiving dinner and watching this game. I mean, that's what it is. Midday, all eyes are going to be on it.
All right, make sure you follow Steve Walls at Steve Walls KC. You can follow me on social media platforms at Darren Smith NFL. Again, we want to wish everyone a happy Thanksgiving post game. Of course, you can tune into our respective pages. We'll bring you Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, and anyone else that comes to the podium. And of course, the Steve will have interviews with the players. And then join us tomorrow night. Myself, Steve Walls,
No,
DJQ.
not tomorrow. This is Sunday. This next week.
Oh gosh, yes, they let you know. Okay,
But
Monday. And Monday's a big day for us too back here in Missouri too. So
yeah,
yeah, so make sure you join us on Monday. Thank you, Steve. Make sure you join us on Monday for the Red Hour. Myself, Steve Walls, DJQ, and Sean Tyler, as we recap this game and get you ready for next Sunday night's game against the Houston Texans at Arrowhead, where Steve and I will be in the press box getting you ready for the game. So for Steve Walls, I'm Darren Smith. Thank you so much for tuning in, and happy Thanksgiving.
happy Thanksgiving. And real quick, just want to shout out my friends over at Dillard's on the Rosa.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah.
My friends over at Dillard's on the Rosa. Make sure you go check them out. My guy Herman Brown in the men's department. He'll take care of you, whatever your game day look that you need. And also my friends over at Riceman and Nissan. Just south of the airport. If you need a ride, wintertime's coming, get you something reliable, heat working. Go over there and talk to them, and they'll take care of you.
And also, look, we want to thank Gates Barbecue. 5 locations around Kansas City. If for some reason you didn't cook, they might actually be open. If not, make sure you go there this weekend. All the football games that are beyond Chiefs will not be playing, so you got no excuses to not stop by there. Get you some good food, some Bernie fries, and a slab of always puts a smile on my face. So I want to thank them, and I want to thank Todd's Clothiers and Taylor Suits as well, always keeping us sharp. For Steve Walls, I'm Darren Smith. Thank you so very much. We'll see you next Sunday live from Arrowhead.